Okay, let's dive right in. We're tackling a moment in life that's, well, huge, often pretty intimidating, and honestly, not always what people expect.
Yeah, that transition, right? Stepping out of school and into what everyone calls the real world.
Exactly. And we're doing this deep dive based on some really interesting material you, our listener, sent over.
Right. The source we're digging into today is an essay. It's titled You're the Boss Now, from back in May 2025.
And it's aimed squarely at recent grads, people facing that big shift.
Uh-huh. Offering a message about this whole transition that I think really cuts against the usual advice you hear. It's kind of refreshing, actually.
Totally. So, our mission today, let's unpack the core message of this piece. It gives this unique perspective on facing uncertainty, stepping into something new. What are the key insights here for someone staring down that uncharted path?
Well, right from the start, the essay throws down a challenge to a common idea. It argues that, despite what maybe parents or professors think, recent graduates are often just, well, not prepared for this moment.
Not prepared. And the reason it gives is fascinating, isn't it? It says you actually cannot prepare someone for uncertainty itself.
Precisely. School life gives you structure, right? Clear problems, defined answers, syllabi.
Yeah, unknown path.
But this next phase, it's the total opposite. It's inherently uncertain, so the skills you need are just fundamentally different from what school teaches.
Okay, so if you can't prepare in the old way, what does the source say you should do? This is where it gets really interesting.
It is. The core instruction is pretty radical. It says you have to, quote, befriend the unknown.
Befriend the unknown. Wow. It even uses that phrase, become intimate buddies with an inky black abyss. Strong stuff.
Very strong. And crucially, the way to do that isn't external. It's not about looking outward, not even mainly about using your intellect, which, let's face it, has been the go-to tool for years.
Right. So where do you look?
Inward. The path, it insists, is inward.
Okay, looking inward. What does the essay mean by that, practically speaking?
It suggests you almost have to actively ignore your intellect sometimes. Block out all those messages the culture bombards you with.
And tune into what instead?
Into a different frequency, you could say. Your feelings, your body, your gut instincts, your ideals, what you really desire deep down.
The source even acknowledges this might sound a bit goopy and soft,
Yeah.
especially after years of rigid structure.
Yeah, it totally gets that reaction. But it argues that this inner stuff, this is essential. It's your compass when the outside world gives you no clear map.
Finding your bearings from inside yourself, not from like LinkedIn or what your friends are doing.
Exactly, not from external validation or just pure logic.
And when you tap into that, the essay says the truth you find is you're the boss now. You're the only person on the planet who knows your path.
Which leads to the next big point.
Yeah.
How does that actually feel? Suddenly realizing you're the boss of this huge, uncertain future.
Let me guess. Terrifying.
According to the source, absolutely fucking terrifying. And importantly, it stresses that this terror isn't a sign you're doing it wrong. It's normal. Expected, even.
It uses that anecdote, right, about the dog trainer.
Yeah, it's really vivid. The trainer watching these two dogs and pointing out the smaller one, saying something like, this small one needs to be the boss. She doesn't want the job, but she's the only one qualified for it.
Wow. And the essay just says, that's you.
Yep. Get ready, it implies, to feel like that small dog doing a big dog's job.
So let's talk about those feelings. The source says you should expect to feel what? Like a misfit, outmatched.
Overwhelmed, yeah. All of the above. But again, these aren't framed as flaws in you. They're natural reactions to being thrown into a situation you weren't and couldn't be fully trained for, the uncertainty itself.
And what's the advice on handling those feelings? Because the instinct is often to fight them or fix them immediately.
Right. And the source says specifically, do not do that. Don't let your overactive mind grab onto those feelings and define you as, like, permanently an outsider or incapable.
Don't let it run you in neurotic circles trying to solve the feeling.
Exactly. The alternative it suggests is, well, it feels counterintuitive. It says, sit with your feelings.
Sit with them.
Yeah. Be patient, accept they're there. Give them space and time. And the essay notes, kind of intriguingly, that if you do that, a sense of calm might actually emerge eventually.
Okay. What about loneliness? That's a big one for people in transitions.
Addressed head on. Expected, yes. But the essay offers this really strong reassurance. You are not remotely alone.
How so?
It makes the point that pretty much every adult you see is pushed past their limits regularly. They've just gotten better at hiding it, maybe.
That's actually quite comforting. This vulnerability, feeling outmatched, lonely.
Yeah.
It leads the essay into talking about shame, right?
Yes, that's a central theme. It makes this bold claim that our culture is ruled by shame.
Ruled by shame. How does it describe that?
It says shame gets heaped on the heads of the suffering. It boils up specifically around things like vulnerability, uncertainty, and experience.
Precisely the things you're dealing with in this transition.
Exactly, the very fabric of this moment.
So how does the source suggest you deal with this pervasive cultural shame?
The instruction is very clear. Refuse it. Reject the shame the culture tries to project onto you. Reject the shame you might feel about your own vulnerability or inexperience. Don't internalize it.
And practically, how do you do that?
It advises actively seeking out friendships with people who are also trying to resist shame. People who, admit their struggles, who assert their boundaries clearly. Build a support system based on honesty, not on hiding or pretending.
So it presents this choice, almost. You can either focus on healing the broken world you see around you, or you can let that broken world convince you that you are the one who's broken.
Yeah. Shame wants to create more shame, the essay argues. So the way out is to just say no, back away, and feel proud of your clear sight, see the dynamic for what it is.
But then it adds a really important nuance, doesn't it? Don't just stay in that place of, no, I reject this.
Right. It warns against getting stuck in a superior place. Instead, it urges you to cultivate compassion. Compassion for the broken world and the broken people in it, because ultimately we're all humbled over and over again.
And embracing that humbling, accepting it, is actually beneficial.
That's the argument. Each time you're humbled, the source suggests, it paradoxically makes you brighter and more brilliant and lighter. It strips away pretense.
Interesting. And all of this really comes back to that core message of self-trust, doesn't it?
Absolutely. The instruction is just so direct. Don't ask anyone else to tell you what to do with your life.
Because you're the expert on you.
You're positioned as the only person on the planet who truly knows your path, even if you can't see it clearly yet.
And how do you access that inner knowing?
The advice is simple, almost meditative. Close your eyes, it says, and feel the truth of that. It's about learning, maybe for the first time, to really trust your own internal vision, your heart, your ideals.
This whole perspective, then, it completely reframes how we usually think about failure, mistakes, difficulties.
Totally flips it. All those anxieties we carry, it tackles them one by one.
So making mistakes, it's not proof you're bad at what you're doing or bad at life.
No. And false starts, hitting dead ends, also not proof you're a fuck-up.
What about feeling scared, anxious, awkward, that sense of maybe not quite fitting in yet?
Again, the source is emphatic. Not proof you don't belong. Not in that job, not in that friend group, not in the world.
Okay, so if these very common, often painful experiences aren't proof that we're broken or inadequate, what are they proof of?
According to the source, they are proof that you are simply a human being, full of blood and hope and gigantic dreams that can hardly dare to show their faces yet. It's proof of life, basically.
That's powerful. It brings us back to that small dog identity again.
Exactly. Embrace being the small dog. Learn to quiet down that overly busy head, that inner critic.
And listen instead for that steady, confident voice deep inside you.
And the essay gets really specific, even kind of joyful, about what your job actually is during this phase.
What is it? It's not get the perfect career track sorted immediately.
Definitely not. Your job, it says, is to fuck up over and over again like a scientist running an experiment.
Wow, okay. So failure is data.
Pretty much. Your job is to notice everything, to relish the humiliations of this day, even, to celebrate the horrors of being young and out of place.
Relish humiliations. Celebrate horrors. That sounds intense.
It is intense. And maybe the most surprising part, to enjoy the delights of knowing nothing, to find joy in the beginner's mind.
And this is contrasted sharply with the big dogs.
Right. In this essay's view, the big dogs are the embarrassing ones, the ones acting like they have it all figured out, just repeating cliches.
While you, the small dog, are lightning fast and unpredictable and glorious.
It suggests that these challenges, these supposed setbacks, they aren't detours from your path, they are the path.
Each disappointment, each heartbreak, it brings you closer.
Closer to those pure, clear voices inside that say, this world belongs to you. It clarifies what you don't want, what doesn't fit.
So your purpose in this phase isn't necessarily about achieving some external marker of success right away.
No, it's defined differently. It's to lead, to blossom out in the open, to show your heart to strangers, to fail and fail and fail again. With grace, with humor, with dignity with joy. It's about the how of navigating the failures.
And that idea of humiliation comes back again, reframed as a gift.
Yeah, the argument is the more genuinely humble you become through these experiences, the more authentic swagger you actually gain. It's not arrogance, it's earned confidence.
Like how little dogs sometimes seem way more confident than big dogs.
Exactly. The source points that out. They have this passion, this intensity.
So ultimately, finding your path, your desires, your convictions, your people.
Yeah.
It happens how?
It happens by exposing yourself to the world as it is, by showing up, messing up, learning, and by fully stepping into and embracing that role of being the boss of your own life.
Even when you don't want the job.
Absolutely. The essay is clear. You won't always want the job. That resistance is normal. But, like it or not, you're still the only one qualified for it. So the core message remains. Trust yourself.
Okay, let's bring this back to you, our listener, maybe facing this very transition right now. Why is this perspective from "you're the boss now" so valuable, maybe even necessary?
Well, I think it's valuable precisely because it pushes back so hard against the conventional wisdom, doesn't it?
Yeah, the pressure to have it all figured out, like yesterday, to feel totally prepared and confident from day one.
Exactly. And this source basically gives you permission, radical permission, really.
Permission to feel uncertain.
Yes, permission to fail openly. And maybe most importantly, permission to reject all that cultural pressure telling you to feel ashamed about struggling or not knowing.
Right. If you take one big idea away from this essay, it seems to be this. Your uncertainty isn't some problem you need to fix immediately. It's actually the core ingredient of this whole phase of life.
And embracing the messiness, the failures, the inexperience, that's not a setback. That is the process. That's how you become who you're meant to be.
So this deep dive really highlights that navigating life after school isn't about conquering the unknown, is it?
No, it's more like making peace with it, learning to dance with it, turning inward for your guidance, trusting that inner compass, even when it feels faint.
And reframing all those uncomfortable feelings, fear, anxiety, humiliation, not as signs you're broken, but just as, well, signposts on your own unique path.
Vital steps, even. Proof you're engaging with life fully.
Okay, so for a final thought to leave you with, something to chew on, directly from the spirit of this essay.
Consider this possibility. What if actively welcoming those humbling experiences, maybe even trying to relish the humiliations, as the source puts it, what if that's actually the quickest, most surprising way to find out what you truly believe in and to build real, deep, authentic confidence?
What would it actually feel like for you to genuinely try and embrace that idea? Something to think about.